Thanks for joining us today. So this tutorial we are going to show you how to do a 6-inch cookie dough cake, from stacking to filling to icing to trimming to all the fun stuff. So our cookie dough cake is our vanilla cake, and then we add cookie dough chunks to it while it bakes. We use 3-inch tall pans, and it gives you the height that you want to cut each layer into 2. So we do 4-layer cakes at Jenna Rae Cakes and 3 layers of buttercream and filling in between. You'll also need a long serrated knife, so that's what we use to cut our cakes in half and to trim off the tops. And then an offset spatula to do the filling and to do the outside. I use a gold cake board because I think it's pretty. And then for our filling, we do a cookie dough buttercream, which is just our American buttercream that we always use, and we add some cookie dough flavor and some ivory gel color. And then our cookie dough is an edible cookie dough, and we put it between every layer. We put a lot in there because you want to get it in every bite. So that's about it. So let's get started. Okay, so first things first, we have to unwrap our cake layers and cut them in half. Okay, so what we do is we take our cake and put it on an even surface. And you want to trim off the top because cakes never really bake up flat. This one's not bad, but I always like getting the brown pieces off just because it's not very appetizing when you cut into the cake. So I think it's always a nice thing to do. And then you kind of just eyeball it. You can measure it if you'd like, but eyeballing seems to always work. I just cut that in half. Alright, so then I just do that again for the second layer. Okay, so you can see the cookie dough in the bottom there, and it's baked throughout, so it's really, really yummy. So again, you just want to cut off the top. And then eyeball it and cut it in half. Okay, so we have 4 pieces, 2 middle pieces and 2 end pieces. So always keep the end pieces, one is going to face down and the last one's going to face on the top. So that's how I do it. Alright, so you just take a little bit of your buttercream, put it on the base, and then put your first piece down and just kind of press it in. So then it may sound silly, but you always want to make sure it's in the center because sometimes I'll get through completely decorating a cake and then I'll be off center on the cake board. So you want to make sure it's centered off to start off with. Alright, so then I do, it's probably about half a cup of buttercream. And then you just want to smooth it out. So I like to do, at the bakery I believe we do a quarter inch, and then the cake itself is 1 inch. So that looks about right. You can add more buttercream if you like more buttercream, or less if you don't like that much, so you can totally customize it up to you. The cookie dough then I just take little chunks of and flatten it up and just place it on the cake. Hi Lila. She's talking to herself. Okay, so you want to make sure that that's over the whole layer because you want every bite to have a big chunk of cookie dough in it. You can never have too much, I think. And then so the next layer you just place it on top and kind of press it in. And then you just repeat. Okay, so now for the final piece, flip it over so it's the top again. You push it down. You make sure your cake's standing pretty straight. Obviously it's very soft right now because it's not chilled, so you just want to be careful with that. So then I'm going to pop it in the fridge, and this I like to set for at least half an hour just to make sure all the layers are really firm before you start trimming away. If it's not chilled enough and you start trimming it, it can start breaking apart or falling over. So you really want to make sure that you chill it long enough. So I'm going to do that, and next we will trim it. Okay, so our cake has been chilling in the fridge for about half an hour. So you can see here if I touch the buttercream, it's hard and it doesn't stick to my hand. That's what you want. You want it to be nice and firm so when you trim the cake, it's not going to fall over. So you just want to cut off just the very outside edge of your cake. So just so you get all the brown spots off. They still taste good. I just think it looks better when you cut into the cake that it's that there's no brown edges. Okay, so now for the crumb coat. I'm just using the same cookie dough buttercream that I used to fill the cake with. But usually if I'm doing this at the bakery, I'll just use vanilla for all of my crumb coat because I'm doing 20, 30, 40 cakes in a row. But when you're just making a one-off like this, then you can use whatever one you want as your crumb coat. But if you do want to do the final coat of your cake a light color, and say you're doing a chocolate buttercream, you're going to want to do that vanilla so the dark color doesn't come through if you're trying to get a white exterior. The crumb coat is an important step because, as its name, it catches all the crumbs. If you were just trying to do this as your final coat, you'd have crumbs in your buttercream, which probably isn't the look that you're going for. It also seals in all the air in the cake, so in between your layers you want to really make sure you get this buttercream in there, or else the air can escape once the cake warms up, and that's how you sometimes get the bulges or the bubbles after you've iced your cake and let it sit out in room temperature. So you want to make sure you get all the little nooks and crannies. So the crumb coat doesn't have to be perfect. So you don't have to spend too much time on this. You just want to smooth it out and get an even surface so it sets you up well for your final coat. Okay, so that'll do. So then back in the fridge for another 15 minutes or so until we're ready for the final coat. Alright, now it's time for our final layer of buttercream. So for this one, I'm going to go really slowly and deliberately to show you how to get those smooth, sharp edges, because it is pretty tricky, especially when you're first starting out. The thing that I've learned is there is no real secret. It's mostly just practice and patience. A really good trick to have, if it's just not working out for you, then just put it back in the fridge for another 10 minutes and try again. It only works when your buttercream is cold. If it's warm, you're gonna have a really hard time getting those clean edges, so keep that in mind. So like before, you just want to add a layer of buttercream. You can be pretty generous with this because we do scrape most of it off. So usually I do about probably ½ an inch. Again, I'm terrible with measurements, so that may be inaccurate, but you just want to, it's better too much than too little. Okay, so when you're smoothing out the top, you just want to spread the buttercream around evenly, and then once you get it pretty level, you just hold your spatula still and just turn your cake stand. So that's going to give you a nice flat, smooth surface on top. It doesn't have to be perfect at this point because you are going to be redoing it over and over again. So then you take your bench scraper and you want to hold it, I always do it from the top down. So you just want to make sure you're holding it straight. That would be the #1 thing. So you just do little by little. So don't press too hard here, just kind of let your turntable do the work and just let it slowly come off. Because if you try to get too much at once, you might have to reapply buttercream after. And you'll just keep going in circles. If you find you're getting bubbles in your buttercream and it's not smooth and there's all these like little holes, make sure you give your buttercream a stir to get all those air bubbles out, and that will help you with that problem. Okay, so once we get to this stage, so it's very straight, but the top is, now you want to get that 90-degree sharp corner. So you take your bench scraper and you just lightly bring in the buttercream, and you have to always make sure you scrape it off after every time. And if you find it's getting really dirty, just give it a wipe, because if you keep adding on buttercream with this, it's just never going to get those clean edges you're going for. So this part does take practice because it is kind of a feel for where the edge is and where you want it to be. Again, if you feel like you've messed up, you've taken too much off the top, just throw it back in the fridge and then build it up some more and try again. So then you want to go over the top edge again. So here you see there's a ridge built up again, so you just go back with your scraper and pull that in. So you just want to pull that in. Okay, so that's looking pretty good. A trick I mentioned last time, and I'll mention it again, is if it looks straight to you, but you're not really sure, stand in front of a mirror while you hold your cake, and then you'll be able to see in your reflection if it's straight or not. I don't know how I figured that out, but it's a good trick to have. So after I give it a wipe, I'll wipe down my bench scraper and then give it one final pass here. There you have it. Nice sharp corners. So if you're having trouble, like I said, always put it back in the fridge, let it be cold, and then you can even scrape it off when it's not fully firm, but it's more cold, so that helps too. If your buttercream is too warm and sloppy, then this will be really hard to get this effect. So just when in doubt, just put it back in the fridge. And that's what we're gonna do now, and then add the ganache and the final touches. Alright, so our cake has been chilling in the fridge and the chocolate is firmed up. So to see how I did the chocolate drip, you can refer back to the macaron crown tutorial that I did. I went into detail about it then. And I know I'm going to get questions about recipes for the buttercream and the ganache and all that stuff. And trust me, we want to share it with you guys, but we are working on a secret project, so we just can't show that quite yet. So just make sure you follow us on Instagram at Jenna Rae Cakes, and you'll get all the updates you need. Alright, so continuing on, our chocolate is firmed up. So for my signature cookie dough cake, I came up with this design, I guess over 5 years ago now. So it's our cookie dough buttercream, and then our chocolate ganache drip, the signature slanty chocolate ganache drip, and then I have my cookie dough buttercream in a piping bag with a star tip here, and then I just make little dollops all the way around, evenly spaced. Okay, then I grab my cookie dough. So for this I usually just take a big chunk and then just rip off little pieces. So obviously if I was doing this for the store at the kitchen, I'd be wearing a hairnet, I'd be in full chef's gear and wearing gloves and all that stuff, but this is just for a video because I know I'll get questions about that. So anyways, so then I'm rolling them into balls. I like to make them a little bit rough looking, I just think it looks cute that way. Alright, so there you have it. This is our signature Jenna Rae Cakes cookie dough cake. It's our 6-inch cake, and we say it feeds around 10 people. I think that's a little under what it actually feeds. If you know anything about tall cakes like this, is that they are deceiving in what they feed, and this probably would feed closer to 15 or 20, but it all depends on how you cut it and how much you want to eat. So we say 10 just to be safe. Alright, let me know if you guys have any other questions about this design or any other ones I've done in the past, and if you have any other ideas about tutorials. I'm excited to do more for you, so just let me know what you want to see. Alright, have a good one.